It's time for another lap around the track with all the latest in motorsports interviews. Sometimes we get bent feelings, but we can't wait for the Bent Fender Podcast with your hosts, Nathan Conway and Wes Llewellyn.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of the Bent Fender Podcast. My name is Nathan Conway, driver of the number 40 stock car. Here locally with me, as always, is Wes. Been flying solo Llewellyn the last week or so.
I have.
Man, here's the thing, man. I was on vacation, just came back from vacation. This is the first episode back, and by golly, you've held the fort down.
It was hard work to do, but somebody had to do it.
Well, you did a great job, man. And you did. And I stand by that. And putting together a best of episode because we weren't going to be able to record a guest while I was on vacation, and putting a best of episode together, and it kind of reaffirms what we've been doing here, and some of the earlier stuff, and how far we progressed since then.
Well, I actually ran into Josh Harris Friday night at Windy Hollow when we were talking about the fact that it's been, it feels like a year since we sat down and interviewed him, and racing really hadn't even started yet when we interviewed him, and just how much stuff has changed since then, and it's just kind of crazy. And I said it when I made the post that it's kind of cool to go back and hear these stories again. It's like getting with friends you haven't heard from in a long time.
Well, it is, man, and that is pretty cool because, I've going back and listened to a few of them, and I'm like, man, I was there, but, I'm trying to remember all the stories, you know what I mean? And that's the thing. That's the great thing about us being able to record this stuff is because we have those stories.
Right.
And we can go back and listen to them anytime we want.
Absolutely.
And people can listen to them for the first time.
And we hope they do.
We absolutely encourage you to do so.
Absolutely.
Well, and another good thing, man, and this was something that you kind of surprised me with, and I called you, I guess, Friday evening, and two cool things I want to talk about with that is went out to Windy Hollow Speedway.
I did.
And did the quick 6 episode, and tell them about that a little bit.
Well, it was I wanted to kind of surprise you with it. It was something that I wanted to do to make sure that we didn't go a week without new content, even though I had done the best of and everything. So I thought it would be a cool surprise, and I was walking through the pits, and Jake was playing the best of episode over the PA. That's Jake Schown.
Yep.
And turn around and hear my voice coming through the PA, and kind of had a little bit of a moment, and picked up the phone and called you, and was kind of excited about it. So it was scary because you've been around this stuff a lot longer than I have, and these drivers a lot better than I do, and I just got out and stepped into these guys' pits, and I didn't know most of them. Kind of looked around the pit and said, which one of these guys looks like a driver? And that was fine. That worked until I stepped into Ashley Haynes' pit.
Oh, yeah.
And saw a dude that I thought was the driver of the car, and put my foot in my mouth and found out that it was a female driver. So she did an interview with me, and it was fantastic, and hopefully we get to see a lot more of her around here. She's from the Chandler area, so.
Well, currently not running up there, so yes, I mean, absolutely. If she wanted to race on the dirt track, we would encourage her to come down here to Windy Hollow Speedway or out to Cedar Ridge Speedway. And, it's all cool, man, and that's the main part of it is I'm there, and I don't know everybody. I know a lot of people around the dirt racing scene, and learning some of the guys from the asphalt stuff. It's changed over the years. But, that's cool that you get out there and start meeting those people and do your own thing too. This is just as much your podcast as it is mine, because it's ours together, and that's what it started out being, and that's what it's going to continue to be. And sometimes I can't always be there.
I think I'm going to stick to hiding behind the curtain. I'll do a lot better with that. So you're the face of this podcast, and my face was made for radio. So
mine was too, buddy. So that's the cool thing about two ugly guys being able to do a podcast. But man, it was a good vacation and much needed. A lot of stress going on, and a lot of people think maybe that recording and podcasting is not stressful, but we have some times that it gets up and down, and then that's okay. But we're a team and everything, and that's a cool thing. But one thing was when I was on vacation, of course, anytime I go on vacation, I try to go visit a track in the area where we're vacationing at.
I have heard that.
And I was able to go to Riverside International Raceway, West Memphis, Arkansas, which is just outside of Memphis, Tennessee, a suburb of that, and literally right across the bridge. And, man, quarter-mile dirt, and they call it ridiculously tacky. And it's not like Hooters restaurant, you know, that kind of tacky. We're talking about, and we hope Hooters sponsors this at some point, so just keep that in mind. But we're not talking about that kind of tacky. We're talking about tacky slick. And man, was that track, you know, it was really cool. When they first started hot lapping, I was like, I don't see how they're going to make it around this place because it was so slick. But as the night wore on, it didn't blacken up like some of our tracks do around here, get dry and blacken up. It stayed slick, but it was very, very racy. And they can run right out against the wall, and you know, those guys are pouring it to it. 305 wing sprints, you know, mini sprints. They had a late models, super late models were there. Stock car class, which is you know, kind of like our street stock around here. 23 street stocks, as a matter of fact. It did not work out on 2 initial starts of the race. It did not work out for several people. But, you know, you have that. So I just wanted to take a quick second to say that, you know, I really enjoyed going to the track. They ended up interacting with me on Facebook, which was really cool. And, you know, we got to talk to you back and forth, keeping you apprised of what was going on. And you were telling me, you know, pretty much everything was going on in Windy Hollow while I wasn't there. So,
play-by-play, color commentary.
Sitting down at dinner getting live race updates from Windy Hollow Speedway was pretty cool. But, you know, again, man, you know, it was cool to visit a different place. I may never get to go back there. I might get to go back there. You never know. I'd love to race there at one point. But, you know, staff was nice. The track was nice. The facility was nice. They did put a sprint car through the fence. I mean, it happens. We've seen it in multiple tracks.
I mean, I guess sometimes you just gotta.
Yeah, you just gotta be like, well, you know, watch this.
Right.
And, he was not happy, but he was okay. So
I bet.
Okay. But, well, man, like I said, I just wanted to take a minute to tell you that, and you've been doing a great job, you know, keeping everything rolling here on the podcast.
I appreciate it.
And, well, everybody, you know, asking, they're all clamoring they want new content all the time. And, you know, sometimes we can provide that, but, you know, vacations do happen and different things do happen. So, you know, cancellations and whatnot. But, hey, it's okay.
We just roll with the punches and do what we got to do.
Well, let's talk about, you know, rolling with the punches. And it came together in short notice today. But, you know, Mikey Gray is going to be on the show today. And longtime racer.
Got to see him race Friday night, actually.
Yeah, you did. Number 42 wagon. We know we did talk about the JT Motorsports wagon, but there is another wagon racing.
There is.
And it's completely different. Looks cool just in its own right. And, you know, number 42, black and orange. It's hard to miss.
It is.
And Mikey's been around a long time, you know, and we want to talk to him about some of his, you know, his raced asphalt and dirt, figure 8, and he's run a lot of different things. So we want to ask him about all that and see how his racing experiences have been.
That's going to be awesome. I look forward to it. So I know he's another guy that I haven't met yet. So it's a cool deal.
Well, you're going to learn just as much as I have because me and Mikey haven't had a whole lot of interactions over the years. I know who Mikey is, and I've seen him race several times, but we never really just sat down and talked. You know, and
there you go.
So it's the perfect forum for that. But we don't want to shortchange his time, just like we don't want to do anybody on this show. So, real quick, our sponsors at this show, Mach 5 Race Cars, Parts and Carts, Fairview IT Management, Martin's Towing and Recovery, Chad's Barbershop, Glenstone Construction, Slingshot Media. Our podcast sponsors, Lori Kimball Home Realty, Willie's Carburetor Dyno Shop, High Octane Racewear and Graphics.
That's them.
If you want to find our podcast, you can do so at iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, YouTube. Did I miss anything?
I think you pretty much got them all.
Yeah. Well, it's been cool because you got to put them everywhere.
I did.
I made sure of that.
I did. It's all part of it, and making sure that you have to trip over the internet to get to your favorite social media site. Not the internet, but our podcast.
That's right.
You're tripping over the internet once you step on the... I can't even talk. I quit. I'm not even going to try to tell that joke anymore.
Well, you can trip over the internet, but you can trip over yourself on the internet
Or you can trip over our podcast while you're going to your favorite social media site.
Right.
There we go. That's
And
what I was
good.
trying to say.
So we want you to see it. We want you to listen. So you can find us on Facebook, Conway Racing Team. Also, the Ben Fender Podcast. Twitter, @Conway Race Team. Instagram, Conway Racing. www.conwayracingteam.com to learn all about our race team. And you can also go to www.thebentfenderpodcast.com, and it will take you right to where you want to be.
It's a true story.
Or somewhere you don't want to be.
Nope, you want to be there.
But it's safe for work, so it's okay.
Absolutely.
Also, support our buddy Blake Smith, Regional Motorsports Power Hour, every Monday night from Maloney's in Owensboro, 7 to 8:30. Go out there, get your sponsors out on the radio, do your part. And, something I've been preaching on Facebook all week was, get to a racetrack and support them, man. It don't matter what racetrack you're going to, whether you go to Kentucky Motor Speedway, you go to Windy Hollow, you go to Cedar Ridge, you go to, wherever. It doesn't matter. So get out and support local racing.
You know where else they should go to support local racing?
Where's that, buddy?
They should go to the Speedseum.
They should go to the Speedseum.
And
That is
the
exactly
Kentucky Motorsports Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
I believe they are open pretty much every day that ends in a Y. They have tons of exhibits set up, and you can learn about all the fantastic history of racing in this area. So, they're doing what we are also kind of doing, trying to capture all this history. So get out there and support them as well. It's cool exhibits, from Nicky Hayden and his family to the beginning days of Windy Hollow and the old it was a car club. What was it? It was the
Owensboro Stock Car Club.
Yeah, Owensboro Stock Car Club. So get out there and take a look at that too.
Yeah, I mean, heck, you can see about everything in there. They've got a hydroplane in there, and they would have called a regatta back in the day.
Some big boat.
Some old drag cars and different stuff, and a lot of history, and that you can read about everybody. And the good thing about social media is if you start and tip the iceberg with some of those names in there, you can always get on Google and find out who they are and find out more information about them.
True story.
So it's good stuff. So don't want to take up any more of Mikey's time, so we're going to hop off here, and we're going to take our first quick break here, and we're going to come back on the other side with Mikey Gray.
Let's face it, we love racing and we need to keep those race machines in tip-top shape to stay competitive. That's why we rely on Mach 5 Race Cars and Parts. Located at 2035 West 2nd Street in Owensboro, Kentucky. They specialize in stock cars, but you'll find all the parts you need for your racing go-karts as well. They are your go-to experts for parts, wheels, tires, fuel, and a wide array of other items to keep you on the track. They have hundreds of parts in stock and can special order thousands of others. Give John Hayden a call today at 270-240-5587.
All right, we're back after the break. We're sitting here with Mikey Gray, who's been gracious enough to come down here, and Fairview IT Management. Again, we told you the guys that at the start of the show. Sitting with us, buddy, going to talk to you about your career and your racing so far this year. But we're glad to have you on the show, and welcome here, buddy.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Well, I mean, man, you've been around a long time. Everybody's heard of Mikey, and but we want to reaffirm. This is a tale of a wagon too, man. Because right now you're running that wagon race car. It's a good-looking car, man. It really is, and orange and black, number 42, man. It looks sharp out there on the track.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, I got that built in. I think it was over there in New Albany, Indiana.
Yeah.
I was looking to do something different for a body, and I talked to a guy, Mike Cramner, and we got on the phone. Never met Mike.
Right.
And 3-hour conversation. He said, bring the car up. Brought the car up. He said, I want to do a wagon body. And, needless to say, brought the wagon out. And I've had a lot of love with it. Not good luck with it, but a lot of love with it. And, it's a different looking car.
Oh, it is.
And so, it's pretty fun to, do things with. And I always want to have a different car where people will know who I am whenever I show up somewhere, because different is what I want to be. I don't want to be the same as Joe next door to me. I want to be that different guy.
Well, that's good to be different. Sometimes it's a pretty neat thing when you can come out with something that maybe somebody hasn't done before, or a different variation. I mean, we've got the Malibu wagon with Dockery and them running it, but your wagon completely different. A lot bigger car. Didn't that start out as a Caprice at one point, or?
Yeah, actually, it was a. If I'm not mistaken, it was Bruce Birch owned it years and years ago. Raced Nashville with it. Then actually, in 2011 or 2010, actually I competed against it in figure eights with Tim Kirtley. Then Blaze Melton got a hold of it. Then. I ended up with it. Hung a two-door Caprice body on it. Didn't like it, and that's when I wanted to do something different with it. And like I said,
Well,
birth of the station wagon.
Well, when you say hung a two-door Caprice body on it, you literally hung that body on it, because I remember you coming out there racing, man. The doors was flopping, the fenders were flopping, man. You just had it on there to get to the racetrack, I think.
Yeah, actually, I just got home from Alabama. Like, I went there for vacation. I said, man, I just want to run. So I pot riveted it and wire tied and everything else on it. And yeah, like you said, everybody asked me if it was getting ready to leave the ground, because it was getting ready to fly. So yeah, because everything was, I didn't have nothing like I should have, and I should have known better, but I wanted to race. And looking back at it, I'm like, man, that's kind of unsafe. And I'm looking at it. Well, I had fun, though.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, with racers sometimes, we can be accused of maybe not making the best judgment calls sometimes just because we want to race, but it's all in fun, and nobody got hurt.
No.
And it looked crazy going around the track, that was for sure. I was like, the whole side of that car is going to fly off here in a minute, man.
Yeah, because it was, actually all I did was painted number 42 on the side, and it was rusty, but yeah, like I said, that body, I didn't really like it. It was too thin. If I really done it the right way, it would have turned out better. But didn't know what I was doing. I never put a body on the car before, so there's a lot of things that.
Well, you had to learn. I mean, that's the thing. It's all a learning process. Because the first time I did it, I didn't know what the heck I was doing either. So
I figured it out that it's sometimes easier to pay somebody to do something. I mean, I hate doing that, but now I try to learn things, and you learn those lessons. Do I do this? Do I pay this guy to do that? Then sometimes I just rather pay somebody to do it instead of the headache.
That's true. Well, Mikey, I want to try to throw it back now. Let's start at the beginning, man. Just how did you get into the sport? Who got you into the sport, and when did it all start for you?
Well, I tell you what, I grew up in Whitesville. I grew up on Highway 54, and when I was a kid, I used to sit on the bank at my house and watch all these race cars go by. Mm-hmm. Sit out there, and me and my sister would wave at all these drivers going by, and they blow the horn and everything else. Then my mom, she got me into racing. She'd take me down to the racetrack when I was a baby.
Yeah.
And so, as I was growing up, and hearing race cars and, being from Whitesville, it's just like, I had to be there. And so, my Uncle Eddie actually started taking me to the races and stuff. And then whenever we moved out of Whitesville, we moved to Pleasant Ridge, and I had a great uncle, Jay. He loved races, so I would ride to the races with him, give him somebody to talk to and stuff. And then his son, Bobo McKinley, I would ride with him. So it was just kind of like family would take me out there when I was a kid. Then it was 1996. My mom passed away in the June. And I was playing football and everything else. And after football season, I had nothing else to do. I said, man, what'd I do? And so one day I was just sitting in front of the TV looking through the newspaper, and I seen a Ford LTD for sale. I said, So I called, and the guy said, yeah, come and look at it. Well, as soon as I looked at it, fell in love with it. Yeah. And so it was just a big old Ford LTD. It was the hobby style.
Yeah.
And so we took it to the vocational school there in Ohio County, where I was going to high school at, and we kind of put it together there, and that's how I got started racing. That was 1997, first time I ever drove a car. Didn't know what I was doing, didn't know anything about race cars, but I made a lot of friends because I would go from shop to shop to shop, and that's what you used to back in the days. You go to the shop and you find out from people instead of getting on your cell phone or calling Facebook and everything else. So you learned a lot from being in the shop and hands-on. So that's actually how I got it started. My mom is the one who got me started.
Well, that's pretty cool, man. And to have that special memory of her and how that, still racing to this day and having a great time with it. And that's a great thing, and family is one of those things where we're big on that in the racing community. And while we're a racing family, but sometimes our regular family is to either blame or or we can thank them for being, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
getting
true.
into racing.
If my mom was still here, she'd be my number one supporter. I mean, she would, in football, she was football, baseball, anything that I'd done, she was right there for me. So that's why, like, every time I get in the car, I feel special, like I'm doing something still for her, in memory of her and everything else, and it makes me feel very special inside. You know, it's something kind of hard to talk about, but you know, it's been, you know, I'm 40 and she passed away when I was 18, so, you know, 22 years, you know, but I still, you know, every time I see a race car, I think of her. Sometimes, you know, it breaks your heart, but, you know, I get in the car sometimes and I'm like, Mom, just let me get on the track and off the track safe.
Yeah.
And I have. So I thank her a lot.
Well, that's the main thing, you know, and you know, safety is a key, and we can want to win all day long, and we can, you know, get mad or get glad or whatever we do, but you know, that's the thing, is you got to be able to pull on that racetrack, pull off that racetrack in one piece, car in one piece, no matter what happened in the race, and that's the main deal.
Sometimes my best feeling is whenever I finish a race that I'm able to pull my car back on the trailer, and
that's a good feeling.
I mean, that is. I mean, you know, I don't go out to win every race. I mean, I know I'm not going to win every race. All I want to do is finish, get out of the car, smile, load it on the trailer, go home, and be safe. You know, enjoy it. That's all. I mean, basically, that's all I want to do is races, enjoy racing.
Well, that's the point. You know, if we're not enjoying it, because, you know, how many times do we see that, you know, people just get so into it that they just, you know, it's not fun, you know, and I've had those moments myself where it's so nerve-wracking and you're beating your head against the wall, and, you know, I had somebody tell me that this year, that you need to just lighten up, man. You got to take a step back. If it's not fun, then what's the point?
Yeah, that's what happened to me is back in 2010, 2011, you know, I was running up there at Whitesville doing figure eights and stuff, and, you know, I got out of it, and once I got out of it, I'm like, man, I kind of miss it, but I didn't want to go around it. And then, you know, I tried lawnmower demolition derbies and stuff, and I was like, then I got a boat, and I was like, well, this is kind of fun, but I miss racing.
And they talk about race cars being a waste of money.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my boat was pretty fun. I enjoyed it. Met different people on the river and stuff, but I still had that aching for racing.
Oh yeah.
And then I got a go-kart. And once I flipped the go-kart one time, I said, I'm done. You know, so I traded the go-kart for this and that, and ended up with the race car again. So there goes a round trip story. You know, I've done a lot of anything from demolition derbies to lawnmowers to lawnmower figure eights to RC cars. Anything that I could. I won't ever race four-wheelers or dirt bikes or anything like that. I'm too old for that stuff now.
we need that roll cage around us these days, by golly.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, that's one thing. Like I said, when I flipped that go-kart, you know, first thing I did was touch my head, touch my whole body, and make sure nothing was broke. And I got back on the go-kart. Yeah, I got on the go-kart, and I was like, I'm done. I raced it one more time, and I said, I'm done. This ain't fun for me.
Well, I want you to talk about those first years, you know, when you used to go to Kentucky Motor Speedway back when, before you started driving. Tell us about some of the people, you know, that you remember racing there, and some of the people that you just thought were, man, these guys are awesome.
Man, I tell you what, there was a guy named Bryce Ford. I think he was number 36.
I think he's still around Whitesville.
Yeah, he's still around Whitesville. I still see him. I still tell him that he was like one of my favorite race car drivers ever. He had one of the most beautiful late models there was. I mean, that was true full-blown late models. And my mom and his sister-in-law was like best friends. So then that's who I grew up watching. Then Ricky Rudd.
Oh, yeah.
Ricky Rudd is like I think he's like my third cousin. And I used to watch him run, I think it was a Pinto back in the days, and it had Days. He was sponsored by Days Inn. And then, I mean,
I'd probably pay to see Ricky Rudd drive a Pinto today, man.
Yeah. Like I said, that was back in the, I would say in the late 80s.
Yeah.
I would say late 80s. I mean, I can remember a lot of stuff at Whitesville whenever they used to pit in the middle. They used to have the winners circle in the middle of the track. Whenever it was small,
Right.
Whenever that track was small, man, that was a blast to go up there and watch. When you go up there, because I mean it was side by side, beating and banging, bomber cars that were pretty much true bomber cars. You just knock a window out and go race and have fun.
Well, that's well, and we'll get into that here in a few minutes. But those early days, and I can remember that same time. Just maybe a couple years later than you. But when Kentucky Motor Speedway was so, it's a quarter mile then, and you're right. I remember pitting in the middle, and Victory Circle be right out there near the X.
Yep.
And still to this day, they don't really have that anymore, and they've extended the track out to 3/8 mile, but. They still do the victory laps with checkered flags and stuff like that, just like the old days of KMS. And and that's one of the places that's special to me too, man, because I ran the first race I ever ran there, or I ever ran in a race car was at KMS, and like I said, still kind of a special place to me too.
Yeah, like I said, I grew up watching that, and honestly, I'll tell you something. On 764, right before you get into the Ohio County and Davis County, there's a creek that's there, and that's where the old Victory Lane concrete and stuff is. It's in that ditch. Because one day I was just driving by and I kind of looked and I stopped, and that's where they threw all that stuff in that ditch. Because like I said, I drove by and seen it, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of memories right there.
Well, now the county's going to come get them for throwing all that concrete in the ditch.
Hey, well, that was years ago. I don't know if it's still there or not, but it could be. Who knows?
That'd have been cool to get piece that back together and have it in your front yard or something.
Yeah.
Well, talk about it's 1997, or the winter of 96, 97. And talk about building that first race car, man. Did you have a lot of growing pains, or did you have somebody try to help you, or how did it go, trying to build your very first race car?
Well, it was difficult because I didn't really have anybody to show me, like, what to do. I've never messed with motors, carburetors, just started learning how to weld. My uncle, Eddie, gave me a place to work on my car. That's where I was staying at. And had an old Buzz box welder. Welded a door with a stick rod. I mean, that's
I've
difficult.
done it, man. I've done it.
Yeah. So I learned that way. You just kind of, maybe a drop light or two there in the shop. It was a big shop. It was an old pig farm. So I never had a fancy shop. I still don't. I work on my car mainly outside. I mean, during winters and summers and everything else, I don't need a big shop to say who I am. I built a car back in I think it was 2011, and I had the drop light, and that was about it. And the sunshine.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, and like I said, 97 though, it was a lot different. It's first time building a car. I was still in high school. I had some friends. They kind of thought they knew what they were doing with motors. We didn't know anything about setting up a car, tires, gears, springs, nothing. So we went out there.
Just some guys wanted to race.
Just guy wanted to race and wanted to do something, and I thought it might like bring in the chicks and stuff like that because you was a race car driver.
Chicks don't like race cars.
No, they don't. They don't.
So 97, you're out there. You guys pull in. What was that like that first time pulling in the gate, out there signing in for that pit pass, and you're like, whoa, we're going to do this. We're going to go racing. How did it feel?
I was, I could say I was pretty nervous. Very, very nervous. Butterflies in your stomach, and I still get butterflies to this day. I like to sit in my car and think about things, and that's how whenever I started racing, when you strap on that helmet, you just think, you're like, wow, I'm really doing it.
Yeah.
And I can remember the first night I was out there, and I think my hood flew up and busted my window, and my front wheel came off and everything else, and I just didn't have no good luck. But I had a race car. That's
Hey,
all.
yeah.
That's all I had to say. I had a race car, and I enjoyed it. You know, I made.
All that was fixable. So
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I made my dream come true when I was a kid. You know, I wanted to drive a race car, and then I fell in love with it, and that was the birth of racing right there for me. So,
well, I've seen that saying on Facebook before. You know, it was better to be a racer for a minute than never been one at all, and I think that holds true, man. Even if you drove 2 laps and quit, I mean, at least you got to get out there and do it, and that was the main thing. And having fun was the main goal.
yeah, that's what life is you got to have fun with life. I mean, you want to enjoy it, smile, you know, make friends, make enemies. Enemies sometimes becomes your best friend.
They do.
Your rivals. Just stay humble. I mean, you know, enjoy time that you're at the racetrack. Meet people.
Absolutely.
You know, and then, like I said, I've got friends that I've raced with, like Chris Hagan. You know, he started the hobby stock class, and I raced against him, and I used to go down there to their shop. I think it was him and Butch Grenier, and I forgot who else, but I used to go down to their shop all the time and bother them because they had the big cars, and that's how, you know, I remember meeting people.
Right.
It's just that way, just at the racetrack, and going and bothering them and talking to them, and, you know, seeing what they are doing, and you try what they're doing, or, you know, then sometimes it don't work because they ain't gonna tell you everything they're doing.
No. Well, and that's the cool. You know, I do find that a lot, and we see that sometimes in the racing world, is that you know, some guys will give you a little bit of information and they'll help you out a little bit, and you know, that a lot of times that courtesy extends until you start running well,
Yeah.
or you start beating them or right on them, and then maybe the lines of communication stop a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I try to buddy up with people who's not in my class.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you kind of see, well, they're running pretty good. What do you do? And I don't go over and check out people's cars. I don't nose in, because my thing is what they may do to help them may hurt me.
Right.
So, you know, it's like we were talking about earlier. You was talking about weight in your car. Well, I think it was in 2010. My car, I think we added 200 or 300 pounds, and I picked up a couple tenths of a second faster. So, you know, and some guys wanted to get their cars. I put heavier and running better. So it's just all, I guess, how a person feels, how a person, you know, wants to drive. My driving technique is different from yours, and John's and Bob's and Chris's and Skip's and whoever else out there.
Well, that's a loaded feature with all those guys. I mean, man, I'm gonna tell you what. But you know, and you're right. A lot of times it doesn't translate to some. Every car's built different, you know, and you might build them sort of the same, but they're going to be a little bit different. And it just the way that you weld this bar or that bar. I mean, it can change anything, you know. And it's and that's right. It may not transition over to your car.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can move the cage back a little bit farther. You put a little bit more of this to that side. You take the body completely off and weld the frame solid. I mean, you do a little movement on this and little on that, then, you know, it may be good, may be bad. So, I mean, to me, a race car is like a big puzzle.
It is.
It's, you know, you got to find the right pieces. And sometimes it may be a kid's puzzle that's easy to do. Sometimes it might be a 10,000 piece puzzle. You'll never know what you're doing right or wrong.
That's right. Until you get it on that racetrack.
Yep.
That's the main thing.
Yep.
Well, I want you to take it back there. So you run your first race. So now you go home, you do a little homework, fix everything. Do you wait a couple of weeks? Do you come back the next week, try it again? Or how did you know, the rest of it go through the 97 season there?
I try to come back as much as possible. Like I said, my uncle, where I was working on my car was actually about a mile, not even that far. Crow fly, I can be at my uncle's house in like 2 minutes from the racetrack.
Right.
We used to pull it down there with, I didn't have no trailer, so we had an old oil well pipe that we would strap to the bumper, strap to the back of the truck, and just pull it down there. And sometimes I think I just left the car down there because I didn't know what to do to work on it, so I just got there and put gas in it.
It was running when it left. So
yeah, it was running when it left, and I mean, maybe bring a battery or a belt with you. That's how I race. Low, very very low budget racing. I probably had the whole entire car. I probably had $300 into it, invested, and like I said, that was just the birth of racing right there for me. It's just like $300 invested, and next year it was a little bit more and a little bit more. I wanted to get faster and faster, and
you got bit by the racing bug. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Did you have any? Very much success that first year? Did you finish? Where'd you run? Back of the pack, mid pack, or
always in the back? Always in the back, kind of like I am now this year. It's just, like I said, I just want to go out there and have fun. I mean, I don't. A lot of times I don't care if I win or lose. It's just you go out there and at least you're doing it. That's your bragging right to yourself.
Oh, it is.
Or memories. That's mainly it's memories. Thinking it's like, wow, I got to race. This is cool. This is something I always want to do. This is cool.
So now, after your first season, now how long is it going to be here before you get into starting into figure eight?
Oh, well, that was I started figure eight back in I think I ran my first figure eight race. Golly, we was running Thunder stocks. So I'm thinking in 2000. Maybe, or hold on, 2002 or something like that. I was running it was regular Thunder stocks, and they said, hey, we're going to do a figure eight race for the Thunder stocks, and I'm like, I'm game.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I ever run. I built the car in 2 weeks, and I took a roll cage out of another car, put it in, swapped everything over, and went out and didn't even have the caster camber set, toe in, toe out set. Went out there and had the fastest time, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of fun. So I think I ran that first night. I ran like third. So I that wasn't the birth of figure eight for me. I went back to oval because a lot of these figure eight they were done with the Thunder stock figure eight class. So
yeah.
And I couldn't run with all these guys like Artie Ware and Budman Russell and all these guys. And Kink Bowman. Kink Bowman used to be pretty dang good.
He was.
So, but actually what happened, I think it was in 2009, I built a car, and my grandpa passed away in 2009. And so I wanted to hurry up and build this car because my grandpa, he was dying of cancer. And I got it built and everything, and then I got sent off to work, and I come back and I ran last 2009. In 2010, they said, "Hey, we're going to do figure eights." I said, "I'm game." So, 2010, we built an old junk car, had a decent motor in it and everything else. Put the wings on the side, and I was working 712s for like 2 months, so I didn't get, to work on my car like I should have. So the opening day that we was going to run, I got laid off that day, and
well,
it didn't hurt me. It actually helped
perfect
me.
time to go racing.
Yeah. So I went out there, and I was not doing so well. Ricky Puckett was leading. And I'm running last, and I met him the Sam the X. Hit him in right out there at the back bumper, and I went from 5 fans to start off that race to the whole grandstand. They knew I wouldn't stop, and fell in love with it right there. I mean, it was just wild. So you had to learn a lot of different setup on figure eights, actually how to drive a figure eight. I mean, it's a lot of people's like, oh well, you just going into a turn. No, it's actually, I think we calculated it up. I think it was you turn 8 different times in figure eights on that track out there at Whitesville, because it's not just pull out of the turn, go down a straight stretch, turn, then you come in. I mean, it's so that was the birth of it.
Well, it's tough, and as somebody who has run figure eight before, and I remember how it is, and a lot of times, people get out there and make the mistake of watching what's going on in the X. While you're turning, You know, you can't do that. You got to figure out who's going to be in that X by the time you get there, because they're at the same point on the track as you for all the way across. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And what's pretty funny is a lot of people, you know, in the grandstands think that like you're matters of inches from hitting something in the X. A lot of times, if you come out of, I guess it's where come down to turn number 2 on that, I call it the long pond, that long straight stretch.
Right.
You can see when a guy's coming out of the, I guess, turn number 3 going into number 4, if y'all want to meet, all you got to do is just let off that throttle just a quick second, get back on it, boom, there you go.
Yep.
Put on a show. It's a show what I was when I was racing. But, you know, if you get whenever I was running with the Outlaws, now that was a different story. That was
Those guys are serious now.
well, that was, I probably had a few $1,000s in my car. They had like $40,000. And Josh James had pictures of me going through the Sam DX in 2011. 2 cars locking up their brakes where they wouldn't hit me because I was going through there, and the picture shows me I'm looking straight ahead. I'm not caring what's going on in the X right there.
You get hit, by golly.
Yeah, and I tell you, I had a good sponsor, Hires Body Shop. They told me, they said, you wreck it, we'll bring it home, put it on this frame straightener, straighten it up for you, get you back out there. So that's, luckily, knock on wood, I never had a intersection crossover meet. Got close to it. And
well, Tony and Toby do love racing, that's for sure.
yeah, Tony Hired, I tell you what, Hired's Body Shop and them, they were very awesome to me, because actually where my uncle's farm was, I can stand there at the back of the building and look down, and there's their shop. So like I said, I was right there, and you know, they became really close to me, helped me out a lot, you know, painted my cars, gave me some of the best paint jobs. You know, they're very awesome people. Still are. You know, I still keep in contact with them, even though I don't go out to Whitesville that much. And, you know, I live here in Owensboro now, so. But I still go out there and visit them because, you know, they treated me so well. And I still send business out to them, still have their name on my race car. And, you know, they weren't a cash sponsor, but I'll tell you, I had a place where I can change my tires at, you know, get my frame straightened if I needed to, tow truck, whatever. So yeah, they helped me out a lot.
Well, that's all worth, you know, I know, so we talk about sometimes that, you know, cash sponsors and things like that, and that's great. But, you know, there's so much other things that people could do, you know, with framework or a place just to mount your tires, because, you know, sometimes racing tires are fickle.
Yep.
And it's hard to do that sometimes. And when you got a place where you can do it, you know, 2 screwdrivers and a hammer gets old sometimes.
Yes, it does.
You know what I mean? So
it does, especially whenever they got those fancy tire changers that, like, you can change a tire, like 10 tires in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, you're sitting in the shop and, like you're saying, screwdriver and a hammer and, you know, trying to get everything off, and you get frustrated and
smack yourself in the face with it.
Yep.
I've done that.
Yeah. Oh, I hate it. You know, I hate it. I still do.
Well, Mikey, we're going to go ahead and roll into our first break, and we got to pay a little bills here. We got to have us some sponsor mentioning, and we'll be right back on the other side, and we'll talk a little bit more. Okay, buddy?
Alrighty.
Whether you're buying or selling a home, you want to ensure your needs are met. Lori Kimball with Home Realty Incorporated is the realtor for you. In today's fast-paced society, it's important to have someone on your side that will give you the care and treatment you deserve. Lori wants to build a relationship with you, and it's her full-service commitment focusing on your family's wants and needs that sets her head and shoulders above the rest. You can contact Lori today at 270-315-1468. That's 270-315-1468. Or you can find her on the web at www.lorikimball.com. Call her today to unlock doors for your tomorrow by building a relationship with a realtor who's here for you.
And we're back from the break, still sitting here with Mikey Gray. And Mikey, we talked a lot about some of your time, your early years at Kentucky Motor Speedway. But I want you to tell me now how it transitioned to the dirt. How did you get started in dirt racing?
Well, actually, how I really got started in dirt, I ran it a few times, like in some enduros. And I guess once I moved to Owensboro, I forgot what year it was. It was first year that I had a wagon. Blew the motor, let the car sit in the backyard. People come by and, hey, is the car for sale? No, it's not for sale, not for sale. Then I had a buddy named Michael Clark. Came up to me and said,
Yeah, I might know that guy.
yeah. He goes, hey, you want to run Rusty Boat class? I'm like, that's a 305 class. No, don't want to. Then I got scratching my head. I went out there one night and I watched the cruisers run. Then I watched the Rusty Boats run. I said, I can't afford the cruiser class. Yeah, let's throw a motor together. So we threw a 305 in there and went out there and started having fun. Didn't have that much money into a motor, just mainly gaskets and stuff. And it was a challenge. It was a very, very big challenge from driving asphalt to dirt.
Yeah.
Asphalt, you want to stay tight. Dirt, you want to stay loose. You drive with your rear end slinging around you on dirt. You drive with your front end on asphalt. So that's a big transition, especially going into the turn and trying to get the car kicked sideways. And needless to say, I didn't do good. But I tried and started doing better, every race and picking up, going from 13th to maybe 11th. I'm like, hey, that's 2 cars I beat.
2 cars. Yep.
Hey, man,
that's right.
I'm doing better. Then, I don't know. I can't say I'm a dirt fan. I'm still a figure 8 fan. I still rather, if we had more cars around here to run figure 8s, I definitely would. Figure 8's what I love because, it's more action to me, because it's not just worrying about who's beside you, not worrying about,
How can I beat that guy into the turn? It is
Yeah.
a little bit of that, but, it's a lot of thinking. There's a lot of planning and strategy that goes out in figure 8 racing.
Yep. Because how can you say this? You don't know who's going to put on the brake and who's not,
That's
and
right.
who's going to go and who's not. You don't know. That's why I guess you trust kind of the other person you're racing with, maybe in a
little
way
bit.
at times. But yeah, dirt's it's pretty fun. This year, not so fun. Last year, it was even worse. Last year I blew a motor my first night out, and man, that was just a kick in the stomach right there.
Yeah.
Everybody said, "Are you mad? Are you mad? Are you mad?" No, I'm not mad. I'm just a little upset.
Disappointed,
Yeah. But here's my thing. I didn't get mad. Didn't blame nobody. Took some time off. And we threw together another junk motor kind of, and that didn't really do too good. So during this winter, I sat down and got looking at my pocketbook and everything else, and I went and got a actual motor built out of Louisville. And how I got hooked up with this guy was I had a mutual friend from the Louisville, Shepherdsville area, and he introduced me to a guy named Derek Anson. Derek Anson drives monster trucks.
There you go.
So I got to actually do hands-on on working on a monster truck, seeing how his motor ran, talked to him. He introduced me to Mary Baird, and then that's what I did this year. So got a great running motor. Like I was talking about earlier, transmission problems, had some carburetor problems. Nothing to do with the carburetor guy. It was all my fault. I didn't have a filter on something that needed to have a filter on. Fuel cell full of dirt and debris, and so that kind of.
They don't like that.
No, that's what I was battling this year, and then got everything lined out. Went out there Friday night. Ran pretty good. Transmission, found out it had a big crack in it, so getting that fixed now. But I think it was the 1st of June. I contacted Misty Westerfield.
Right.
I said, Misty, my 40th birthday is coming up. I said, I want to do something special. I said, would you let me carry the American flag? She said, yes. She said, I would, that'd be an honor. And I said, thank you very much. I said, I got one more question. She said, what's that? I said, can my nephew ride with me? She said, yeah. I said, awesome. So I called my sister. They live in Louisville. And I said, hey, Krista. I said, will y'all be here for my birthday? She said, why, what's going on? I said, got something special to do with Van. That's my little nephew. He's turned 4. And he got to sit in the car with me. And I took the American flag around. Felt proud. I mean, I was just like, got my nephew in my car with me, carrying an American flag. Another thing that made that day awesome is my football coach that he coaches in Boyle County now, Mike Settles. Mm-hmm. His daughter was doing an archery competition there in Louisville. He calls me and says, hey, Mikey. I said, what's up, Coach? That's Coach Settles for you. He said, I'm in Louisville. When you race next? I said, tonight. He said, awesome, I'll be there. I was like, what? Awesome. So that's been my highlight of the year. Nephew got to ride with me, carried the American flag, my football coach, and I qualified 3rd that night. So that's my biggest accomplishment of dirt racing so far this year, and pretty much so far since I've been racing. And so, and I enjoyed it. And like I said, when I talked about memories, those memories are going to stick with me right now forever.
Well, those are pretty special memories, man, because, when you can do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do, or, you get to do things that has been something on your mind for a long time, and especially to celebrate an occasion, and then to have old friends come in, it is a good feeling.
Yeah, it is. And, I still just, I think about that day because it was so awesome because my nephew, he was just, smiling from ear to ear. And my nephew just thinks the world of me. And I think the world of him. And, I hope, maybe he'll race whenever he gets older. His dad was into racing motorcycles like the, which, like with the Hayden's race, they done that. And so I guess he might start motorcycles, but my brother-in-law actually went, I think last year, and watched, and he's like, man, I need to get Van into a go-kart. So maybe we might have a future racer, and I want to be that uncle who I want to be there supporting him. That's what I want to do. And I try to support all the younger kids doing sports.
Right.
Football, baseball, golf, soccer, tennis, RC cars, whatever.
Well, keeps them out of trouble.
Yeah, it keeps them out of trouble, keeps their mind focused, gives them something to look forward to, especially if you have a like an adult, behind them and said, hey man, you're doing such a great job, and it's just inspiration.
Right.
That's what a kid needs, because I know whenever I was a kid, meeting these drivers that, get out of their car and, beating and banging with somebody who's still nice enough to maybe give you an autograph, and who in your eyes, they were famous. And in their eyes, they're just a local dirt track racer or asphalt racer, but in a kid's eyes, you're a star. That's, to me, that's what it needs. I want to pass on that tradition like that.
Well, think back to when you were a kid, and I did want to ask you about that. This can be any form of racing. It can be any asphalt, dirt, anything you would like. But I want you to talk about your favorite drivers, and you can be a fan of anybody. And just think back on who you were like, man, those guys are where it's at. You know what I mean?
I tell you, here's one, Jeremy Mayfield. I think he was driving the number 21. I think it was a maroon Camaro. And this is, years ago. I can even tell you, I can remember what color shorts I was wearing that night. And my uncle signed me up for, like a fan appreciation, or the
Junior fan club.
Junior fan club, yes. And I was sitting there, and we was watching this race, and it was Jeremy Mayfield. I didn't know who he was. Nobody did. He was just regular average Joe out there at the racetrack. Loved his car. He was a good racer out there. And I told my uncle, I said, man, I said, I would love to go down there and, blah, blah, blah. Well, my name got drawn out. Jeremy Mayfield won that race that night. I went out there, and that was like one of the proudest moments. So I became a Jeremy Mayfield fan, and I still am. Whatever happened with Jeremy, but
right.
Tell you what, I'm still a fan of Jeremy because, even though whenever he came in town, I spoke to him and stuff and told him about the memories and stuff, and he's like, oh, man, that's cool. It's just, little things like that. When you're a kid, you remember little things. And, but, used to, like, I guess back in, growing up, like, one of my favorite race car drivers, and he still is to this day, is Artie Ware.
Artie B. Ware.
I call him Artie B. Scared. But
because anybody he's racing against ought to be scared.
Yeah, I tell you what, Artie, I always thought, back in Whitesville, he was this cocky young guy, always good and everything, and run Louisville, run all the figure eight races, and it was, I don't know how many years ago, me and Josh James went up there, and I went up there, and there was something with him and the Harmons, they were getting into it, and I had
as a name synonymous with up there around the Louisville area.
Yeah, I had a little bit. I had some adult beverages that one night, and I went into the pits and I started yelling out, "Artie, be scared! Artie, be scared!" And I tell you what, there was about 20 crew members from Artie Ware's team turned around and looked at me, and they were like, "Who is this guy?" Artie said, "Oh, don't worry about him. He's just a local idiot," or something like that. Me and Artie became good friends. And I think it was last year, I went up to Indy to the 3-hour figure eight race.
Right.
And I went up there and just to go watch. Then ended up helping Artie Ware. And so, from being a younger kid in your teens to now being 40 and still watching Artie race and still him, being a nice guy and everything else, you change your outlooks of what a person you thought was who they were on the racetrack, then turn around and they're like, oh, wow, they're pretty cool without their helmet, but actually I'm going to go up this year and go help him again because I had such a blast going up there and helping him. So, watching him as a kid and, now my favorite race car driver around here is Josh Harris. The reason why I like Josh Harris is one laid-back, cool cat.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of these guys who, it was a couple of years ago, there was something with my seatbelt. It was wrapped wrong or something like that. He just happened to come by and look at it, show me something. And I said, wow. He said, it could have saved my life if something did happen. And then me and Josh became friends. I go over there and hang out in the shop, talk to him and stuff. And, and he's he's taught me a lot about racing, behind the scenes and during the scenes of racing. And that's some things that, there's sometimes that I used to be a guy who, I'd have $2 in my pocket and say, hey, let's go racing. Then not turn around and look at the big picture. I'm like, well, you're not 100% ready. You don't need to go out there. And I used to be ready to go. And now I just kind of look at things. I'm like, wow. So, sitting down in the shop with Josh, just me and him sitting there talking, man, I learned a lot from him this year. I mean, a lot. And it's, some things it's just, common sense that, having somebody else talking to it and explaining a lot of things. And, he's a really, really good guy. I mean, takes his time out to shake your hand, talk to you. It's just, he's a person who I could say he's probably my favorite race car driver right now.
Well, we did an entire episode with Josh, and he was one of the early guests on this show. And sitting down and talking to him, you do see exactly what you're saying. That guy is super laid back. he's very, very serious about racing, and he is all about it. But he is a super laid-back guy, and he doesn't get crazy. He doesn't, get emotional. He just knows what he has to do. And you're right. Somebody who can just be around him and look at what they do on their cars or what his work ethic is, and that's something that people need to strive for in this industry, in this business. Is people being able to have that drive that those guys have and that team, and it's made them successful. There's no denying what kind of success has come, and it's earned him a great opportunity. It's a couple of great opportunities, and he is making the most of it.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, Josh. I mean, he's had a little bit of trouble this year, but he's overcome a lot of some bad luck and things like that. But like I said, Josh, even though he might have had bad luck that night, he's not gonna turn his back on to you, at the racetrack. He might not want to carry a good conversation, but he's also a kind of guy who,
well, depending on what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's like I said, he's a very cool dude. I like him. I mean, he's kind of guy that I have a lot of respect and racing for him. A lot. He's done good for himself in racing wise.
Oh yeah, and he's there. There's no way that those guys have reached the pinnacle of where they can go, because I seriously think that and Josh has run modifieds and late models and dirt bikes and the whole like, and I just don't think that they're anywhere done in their journey. And I don't think this is a stopping point in what he's doing right now, because I think there's even higher rungs to climb.
No, here's the thing about Josh. He's always, he may win today. He's always looking for tomorrow what he could do better. He betters himself, and that's a thing that he's opened my eyes up to. It's like, hey, you might have a bad night tonight, but look for tomorrow. Look what you can do. Maybe possibly change this, do this. It's just he's one of these guys who he doesn't sugarcoat nothing.
No.
I mean, he will tell you. He will tell you straight up. But he's also one of these guys. He will help you any way he can. And that's to me that's a big deal in racing, is helping another fellow racer. He may not run in my class, but he's always he's always there to help. And that's I go to the racetrack actually, and I'm my own pit crew. I have nobody there with me, and so I usually park next to Dockery and them, and they help me out on things. I help them on things. Same thing when I ran out there at Whitesville, Aaron Abbott and them, pit it next to them. Aaron and them always help me. They always have 10 or 15 guys in their crew that always help me, change a tire, work on the carburetor, timing, whatever.
Right.
So I've always been a one-man crew, I guess.
Well, we talked about that several times on the show. Is we talk about, and I remember it both ways. I've done that. I started out with helping, just crew different cars, not really. I'd just be in the pits, and come with one car and then start helping another and, change tires for this guy or, beat this dent out or whatever, whatever you have to do. And that is how you learn and how you make, friends and acquaintances there. But I think that is a major part of it. And we've seen a shift to where these days I think it's different than it used to be, is that I think people are way, way more in tune with willing to help everybody. Everybody is, everybody feels like everybody's on the same playing field and say, hey, man, this guy's just trying to do what I'm doing. It don't matter if it's in the same class, if he runs a different type of car or whatever. They're there to help, and they want to see this guy succeed. He made a drive. He paid his money. They want to see him succeed just like, you want to see them succeed. And I think that's what we're finding more these days.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. Say, like, if you got a guy in your class and just for say, he may be a rookie or a beginner, just learn how to race. He might come over and start talking to him like, hey, what can I do to make this better? He's not come over and bothering you and trying to figure out, what you're doing. He's trying to help himself. And, you know, he might come over and said, hey, I need a fan belt. You know, mine broke. And, you know, some people will be like, oh, well, we don't have one. Another guy will be like, hey, dig around, we'll find one. Well, hey, we'll get you going because we want to see you out there on that track. Then you may not know. It might be a couple weeks down the road. You may need something.
That's right.
And you go over and ask them. And, you know, if you was a person who turned your back on them, hey, that part might be laying down there and you see it. But nope, we ain't got one.
Yeah.
And, you know, to me, you got to be nice to, or let me say, you got to try to be nice to all your fellow racers, even though you might.
Well, it's tough sometimes. I will agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times there's tempers flare, people get mad and everything else. But you know, here's one thing I look at it: we're out there to put on a show.
Absolutely.
We put a helmet on. I want to go home safe. You want to go home safe. You want to win. I want to win. You know, I'd rather run a second and third place to a guy and, you know, like I said, go home, load my car up instead of getting out there and beating and banging and tearing everything up and, you know, go for a win because you never know. You may take yourself out, take them out. Then what's that going to prove? You know, then everybody's going to think, oh, well, that guy's a butthole, and I don't want to race against him. You know, he tears up everything, and everybody, you know, so.
Well, it's real easy to, you know, because, again, fans will draw their own conclusions very, very quickly, it seems, these days, too. And a lot of people who will form an opinion based on something they didn't even see. But, you know, you're right. It doesn't take just a minute to ruin a reputation, you know what I mean? Because you could have 100 attaboys, but one old crap will erase all those 100 attaboys, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you know, a lot of people are quick to judge somebody very, very quickly. You know, if you may hit their favorite driver, you might have flattened their tire, might have done it on a complete accident.
Oh, yeah.
But their fans, oh, he's a dirty driver, and oh, that's the only way he's going to win, and everything else. But, you know, then they don't see a lot of things behind the scenes. Right. You know, you walk up to them like,
you know, hey, I didn't mean it.
Be like, hey, dude, I'm sorry. You're like, no, man, I shouldn't have came down on you. Be like, no, it was my fault. Then y'all are sitting there arguing whose fault it is, and but people don't see that. And then, you know, everybody's quick to get on the social media and, oh, wow, Mikey Gray took this guy out, and, you know, he's a dirty driver, and nobody likes him. Why does he even race? And he can't finish a race, you know, things like that. But then also, some people don't see me or see other drivers, like, through the week, you know, texting or calling somebody, be like, hey, man, I got a rear end if you need one.
Yeah.
Hey, I got this part, you need this. Or you call somebody and, you know, you help them, you know. Hey, this guy might not know how to weld, and you got a welder, and you can go there and help them weld, and this guy might know something about a carburetor, switch out work, you know, help each other out. You know, that's what I see, what you got to do. There's a lot of behind the scenes that people don't see, and a lot of times people don't get on Facebook or Twitter or whatever and gloat like, hey, guess what I went and did? I went and gave this guy air to put in his tire, you know, or I gave him a motor. You know, some guys, like I said, you just sit back and, like I said, just, you know, be humble on it.
Well, you got to be, you know, and that's the thing is we've got to make sure we are humble, because when we get out of that, it's real easy for somebody to think we're cocky or, you know, and that's one of those things where you get that reputation, it's going to follow you, and it takes a lot to try to live that down. It may not have been done intentionally, but just being humble will go a long way with other people.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you know, like, my number one thing is no matter how bad of a night I have, if you got a fan or you got a person from the grandstands or other team, or even to me, younger kids come up to me and say, hey, you know, I like your car, you know, and you was doing good, and, you know, you just, no matter how mad you are, I always stop and talk to them, because you know what? You would never know. This little kid may grow up and he may want number 42 to be his car because that was my number, and he was like, man, I grew up watching you. or, hey, remember that time that you talked to me and you told me, keep your head up and enjoy racing. Well, I want to race because of you. And not saying I'm going to change the world in that way, but sometimes, it's something good to, coincide with your fans, talk to other people, especially, like I said, younger kids. I mean, that's our future. If I want to be sitting in the grandstands when I'm 60 and 70 years old, watching some of these kids race, and have a kid come up to you and be like, "Hey, aren't you that guy that had that mohawk back in 2011? You run figure eights?" I'm like, "Yeah, with the SpongeBob in your car." "Yeah, that's me." "Man, I remember you, dude. That you were crazy." So yeah, that's what I wanted. I want to kind of remember things like that.
Well, I think that when you mentioned kids earlier, and we're kind of talking about it now, is that one of those things where you told your own personal story where it stuck with you. Being able to meet Jeremy Mayfield and watch him race, and you really were a big fan, but then you got to meet him, talk to him, even do junior fan club, and I think that's important, and I think that that's something that I think sometimes we should all meet our heroes. It doesn't always work out well, because it may be the persona they portray to the public, but that's not really what they are in real life. But you got to see the same side, of him that you were a fan of. And I think that's what we were talking about, being humble, but projecting ourselves to the kids. And just like you mentioned, you like to do it for the kids and let the kids see something crazy or something like that, and not malicious or dangerous, but just see something crazy and they'll be like, man, it gets their attention.
Yeah, like I said, back in, I guess it was, I think it was 2010 to 2011, we had bicycle races up there at Whitesville. I went out and bought bicycles, bought candy, and things like that for the kids for the bicycle races. And there was one time there was I think there was like 14 little kids that were racing, and I didn't have a bicycle or something for them, so I took a $20 bill out. I said, okay, there's 14 kids racing. Okay, whoever comes in 12th spot, I want to give them a $20 bill. So this little girl, she got 12th, and she come up, and I said, here you go. And she said, what's this for? I said, well, I didn't want to pick the winner. I didn't want to give the winner. I want to give somebody who tried. So I gave her that $20, and the look on her eyes, I was just like, wow, I got goosebumps. And I was like, she said, thank you. Her parents come up and said, thank you very much. You didn't have to do this. I said, no, I wanted to do this because, it showed me that, there are little kids out there that, look up to you. And in 2010, it was championship night. My car, I had a bunch of troubles with the motors. I went through like 2 or 3 motors in a week, in a few weeks. And so I got a motor donated to me. And they said, all we want you to do is go out there and finish the race. You're going to win the championship. I said, all right. Went out there that night. Man, my car was fast. I was hooked up, everything. And got into it with another driver. Broke my rear end, knocked my axle out. So I'm coming into the pits, and I'm, in my car throwing a fit. I mean, I'm just, because that was my night.
Right.
Slamming my steering wheel, everything. Aaron Abbott came up to me. He said, Mikey, he said, just chill, dude, chill. He said, you won the championship. He said, man, we're going to get you out there on the road back. We're going to get you out there where you can get your picture taken. He said, but he said, don't make a scene. He said, man, there's kids. I said, man, that right there really, really hit me. I said, all right. So I settled down, breathed, got a drink of water, went back out there, didn't go on no road back. I drove that car out there with 3 wheels, dragging everything. Crowd went crazy. And I tell you what, I still got that picture, and you cannot see my car. You can barely even see the wings on it. I had people stretched out. I mean, Ed Hawkins had to step way back because I had so many people wanting to come, get their pictures taken, and that made me feel very awesome very special because, it was championship night, something I didn't even think in the world that I can even ever win. I never even shot for a championship. Then once I started, getting up in the points, I said, wow, even though there was a lot of cars, I showed up every weekend. And to me, that's just not all about winning.
Nope.
It's being there, being at the right time, the right place, and the right people. So, but yeah, that was, like I said, and, I had a lot of kids just come up to me, and like I said, I had the mohawk. I had kids, one of their hair, they come up to me during the race and say, hey, look what I got me a mohawk. And their parents like, yeah, thank you. And in the smiling way, they're like, yeah, my son got a mohawk just because of you. So one time I went out there and I brought some hair spray paint, and I spray paint kids' hair black and orange. And like I said, I picked up a lot of fans, and it wasn't doing it to, to impress people. It did it because to see the smiling faces, of the kids and in the happiness, and that's what, that's what makes our sport, is we strive certain ways to bring other people in our sport. They might not be a fan. That might be the first time ever racing. And they're like, wow, that guy, he's pretty cool. And hey, my son wants to meet you, or my daughter wants to meet you. Shake their hand. They're like, wow, hey, we'll be back next week. We're gonna be cheering you on. Then you introduce them to other drivers, and so it's a big thing. Sportsmanship. That's what I like to strive for, and like I said, and making people smile. You never know who's going to be your fan, or you never know who you're going to work for one day. And, you might be a guy sitting in the grandstands. You might go out there and act like a butt during a race, and you go to a job interview, and he's like, hey, don't you drive that number 42 car? I'm like,
no, wasn't me, buddy.
I'm like, yeah, that's me. All smiling. He's like, you're not hired. Why? I see the way you are on that racetrack. No, that's never happened. That's just a story I made up. Honestly.
Well, Mikey, I want to ask you something after the break here, and it's along the same vein, so we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back on the other side, and I'll get into that, all right?
All right, thank you.
All right.
Having trouble getting your business vehicle noticed? Want your race machine to look sharp on and off the track? Give Josh Tyler a call at High Octane Wraps and Apparel. They specialize in high-quality vinyl graphics as well as full vehicle vinyl wraps. They can handle jobs of all sizes, whether it's your racing go-kart all the way up to your semi-truck. With a quick turnaround and design and install, you can truly call today and look good tomorrow. Give them a call at 270-929-2605 or stop by their shop located at 2531 West 2nd Street in Owensboro.
All right, we're back with Mikey Gray, and Mikey, we kind of rolled into it a little bit before the break there, but I wanted to get your take on it. We want to talk about these future racers and different things like that, and these kids. What advice would you give, and would you have to start out, somebody in this sport, get them interested, and things like that to keep them hooked on racing?
Well, basically go into the sport with a good head.
Yeah.
Take advice. You may have dominated in go-karts, but go-karts and big cars or neons or mini stocks, they're different. Take advice from your fellow drivers, your elders, I guess, as you want to call it. Take advice from them. Just don't go in there and say, hey, you know what, I won this one race, and they go in there and be a hot shot, because, hot shots don't win races.
No.
Another thing is, it's build a safe car. I scream safety. Buy you a good helmet. Wear the proper racing attire, not cut off sleeves. That's what a lot of guys do in demolition derbies, and I cringe, because, man, I tell you what, I've never seen anybody get burned, but touching a hot header, or you never know, a radiator explode or whatever. Be safe that way. Window nets. I mean, build a safe roll cage. Don't just go out and get some tubing and just think you're a welder and throw something together and another thing, make sure your battery's strapped in. Tanks are strapped in. I mean, there's certain little things to me that is a pet peeve to me that I would give advice to. Like I said, I mean, run a good racing seat, up-to-date belts, run your fuel lines the way they need to be. Just my best advice: safety, 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 safety.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, and and that's the thing is with what Billy Igler was trying to do, and still does a little bit. The Safer Racer program with fire suppression systems and racing suits that are still in date and good, new belts and different things. That's a big thing where people don't. And how many times have we seen it? People think that ain't nothing going to happen. It'd be all right. We'll go out there, and I've seen people get really, really seriously hurt over something that they were just like, well, we just going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you something. I guess it was 2016. Artie Ware was telling me that they were putting fuel. They were doing a stop and go in the 3-hour race, and they were putting race fuel in his car, and he runs Outlaw Figure 8. Well, the guy overfilled the tank, and they pulled the funnel straight out. And where did that gasoline go? Straight down in Artie's lap, right on his back, down his lap, and everything else. That's, like I said, that was an accident. But certain things like that. I mean, you gotta think about things like that, because I mean, you can get maybe not personally myself hurt, a fan hurt, another driver hurt. And over sometimes something that you should have done, like put 1-inch lug nuts on your car. Tighten your lug nuts, hood pins. I mean, little things, and something that like what we was talking about, my body flopping at one time. Things like that. I mean, I knew better, but to me, I think that's my best advice right there, is safety. And another thing is respect your fans. Always stop, talk, say hi. Thank them. Say thank you for coming out tonight and see me race. Thank you for coming out supporting the races. Without the fans, you always got to show respect. And your little kids, they look up to you. Show them respect. That's what I give. That's my best advice: safety and respect. So,
well, those are both good things, and that's something we've heard a lot of different things when I've asked people on this show, different things of what kind of advice, and a lot of people say hard work or perseverance or just check everything. But you're right, man. Safety is a big key to it, and if you're not going to go out there to be safe, there's no point, because you're right. You're going to get yourself hurt, a crew member hurt, a fan hurt, a track worker hurt. Any number of things can happen. And how many times have we seen it that you're just like, how in the hell did that happen? You know what I mean? And it's just something, a freak accident or something, but then somebody gets hurt and be like, well, it's totally preventable.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we live in the world that we live in a fast-paced world. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we forget the little small things in life. But sometimes little small things could turn around and, cause something major in a life.
Yep.
And so, sometimes you just got to slow down, enjoy, things, look at your car, it just, like I said, safety. That's my main thing, is safety, because I'm scared that, if I did hurt a fan, or if I did hurt another driver, how am I going to sleep that night? And it could be a freak accident, but if it's something that I know that I could have prevented, and I knew it, man, that would tear me up. God, it would tear me up bad.
Well, that was one thing that we used to do back when, you think about, we throw it back to maybe the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s when we raced. I remember Gene Mitchell, no longer with us, but Gene used to be the tech man at Windy Hollow Speedway, and you had to, when you pulled in, if you hadn't been there, if that was your first night, you had to get your car off the trailer, and you had to drive it up to, you remember the old scales sitting right there in the pits, and you had to drive it up to the old scales. And you had to get out and back away from the car. Gene went over that car. He checked your lug nuts. He checked your battery, made sure it was strapped in, your fuel cell, made sure all your wires were tied away from fuel lines, and all your connections were tight. He'd sit there and he'd grab your belts and he'd yank those belts and make sure they were in there tight. He would take your seat, push it back and forth, make sure you didn't have it bolted to the floorboard or something, and it was in a secure mount. And that was the thing. And you did not race that night if you had something unsafe. If you didn't get that big orange sticker on the top of your car, there was no way you were racing. He was not going to let you on that track.
I was just talking about that our Saturday night to a person, and I said, that's what tracks around here needs. They need somebody to take a car, check the welds, check the fuel cells, check,
No, we're not talking about, checking bore and locked rear ends and things. We're talking about a safety guy.
Yes.
Just a guy that goes over that car and his sole job is make sure everything's good.
Yeah. I mean, and to me, it's like, if he pops your trunk and, you got wedge bolts in there, hey, if you can't run them, you can't run them. But he's not going to check for that.
Yeah, that ain't
but
his job.
If your fuel cell has one strap on there and you don't have a gas cap on there, no, it's no go. Turn your car back around, put it on the trailer, or fix it before you get it there on our track or my track or whoever's track. And, that's how it needs to honestly be, because the other day I seen a guy's car, and I looked at his cage, and he's been racing. And I looked at it and I said, how is this guy racing this car? You can pick up the road cage. It's not bolted. It's welded in one spot. Door bars not even completely on the door. The rollover post, I'll tell you what, if he sits in the car, his helmet peeks out above his roll cage.
Yep.
And he's worried about his motor. And I said, buddy, you need to worry about your roll cage before you do your motor. And so, I mean, that's just a little bit of little things right there.
Right.
Safety. I've worked construction, and number one preaching, safety.
Well, OSHA doesn't come inspect our race cars, so, a lot of guys try to get away with a lot of things. But you're right, and quick story on that note is whenever, you talked about Michael Clark, he's my cousin, and I help out with a little bit of his racing stuff. And, we took the one old Malibu that he had, and we took that thing, and I'm talking about just completely apart. And we had to do a lot of, because he bought that car, and it wasn't quite welded the way it needed to be. And man, we went through that whole thing and fixed bars and put safety stuff in it and different things. And that car, and I'm really proud of that car because it's a safe race car. I mean, it's a little bit beat up, but hey, that's okay. You can put a body on it.
Yeah.
But you can replace that body, but you can't replace your body.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? And like in my car, I mean, I got tons of bars in my car. And I'm not afraid. If I did have a rollover, or I did, get hit in the driver's side door, I want to be safe. I know my belts are good. I know my seat's good. I got an up-to-date helmet. I wear a racing suit. My fuel cell. I got the good fuel cell. If you flip over, it's got the ball in there and it'll shut. You fuel off, and like some of these little. Mini stock cars, they're fuel injected. They got the automatic fuel pumps and everything else, electric fuel pumps. They need shut-offs because I've seen a few of them up there at Whitesville burn to the ground because once you get out of that car and there's that fire, that fuel pump does not stop like on my car, like a mechanical fuel pump. Whenever you got the motor on, it pumps the gas. Whenever your motor's done, it's done. These cars right here, if you got a live battery to it, you're doing nothing but putting fuel to the fire. I guess in that term, yeah. And like I said, to me, like I said, best advice: safety, safety, safety.
Oh, absolutely.
If you don't, to me, if you don't feel safe putting your grandma in it, don't put your own self in it.
Right.
It's.
Well, that's definitely good advice, man. And well, one thing you mentioned earlier, and we touched on a little bit, was social media. And you mentioned people who like to get on Facebook and talk and do and whatever. But have you seen it being more of a help or more of a hindrance to racing?
I'll say this, and I'm guilty for it. I have got on Facebook, and I have bashed tracks, drivers, people, and everything else. I won't say I won't not do it anymore, but to me, it has hurt the sport a lot. One kind of good thing about social media, you get on Facebook, you got your trader, you got your websites, or you got your pages where, you can go buy racing parts and stuff like that. That helps, yes. But, if I go to a track and, say I'm having a bad night and my car's not running good, the track's not as smooth as I want it to be, I want to get on there and say, oh, wow, this track is crap and everything else. Well, hundreds of people sees that, then they share that. Well, then a track may had a bad night, but then I get on there and say, oh, well, this track right here, it was rutted up and everything else, not knowing what could have happened. Machine might have been down, something. And then hundreds of people see that, then they're like, well, I'm not going to go there no more because that track is junk, because Mikey Gray said it was junk. Then next thing you know, there's people on there arguing and complaining, and so yes, I'm guilty for it, and a lot of people are too. It hurts our sport. It doesn't help it a lot. A lot of places, they advertise racing just on social media. There's a lot of people who don't have it, that doesn't know when races are, doesn't know what the events are going to be. Used to, it was on the radios, it was on the newspapers. Who reads the newspaper anymore? Not a lot of people do.
Right.
So, yeah, social media has taken over a lot of life, as in racer, as in social life and personal life and everything else. It has helped it at times, because you can get on there and congratulate a person. Hey, man, you did a great job racing. Share your pictures and stuff. But also you can get on there and just say one little bad thing about maybe one driver. Then this person reads it wrong, and then they go and say it to this person. Well, next thing you know, you got a heated raffle. Even y'all might not even known what was going on.
Right.
But social media has actually, I think, it's killed the sport.
Well, that's an interesting take on it, because on some ways I do think you're right with that, and maybe not from the drivers as much, but I think where you get it a lot is the fans, and who you said it yourself earlier, is the people that know what happened on that racetrack are those two guys in them cars. And they might see it differently. You're right. They maybe had a different perspective of what happened, and
yeah. But
the fans definitely don't know what happened, and they weren't there.
Yeah, and I'd tell you something else is kind of funny. And if somebody puts a picture of a car on Facebook or Twitter and everything else, well, people will screenshot that. They'll zoom in and see what kind of tires they're running, see what kind of shocks they're running, see they try to find things illegal with it, or they run their cameras in their car. Well, they're saying you see different views of what a fan might see, and sometimes it has helped other drivers, like, oh wow, he backed off his motor, he was on the brakes, but in a fan's point of view, they didn't see that.
Right.
But you see that on video and like, oh wow, well maybe we was wrong. But like I said, though, it's got its pluses and it's got its minuses, and But, I want to say within the next 5 years, social media is going to be like the go-to kind of thing that everybody's going to be on it, which they are now. But, it's, to me, I hope it doesn't get worse. But, now it's kind of like I was saying earlier. You used to go to people's shops and gossip and talk and stuff like that. Now all you got to do is just pick your phone up and look, or get on your computer and look, and there you go. It's right there. You don't have to go to somebody's shop. You just sit right there, and sometimes you can just sit back there and just put whatever you want. Because I'll tell you, one of the things that killed it. This was before like Facebook, MySpace. Whenever they had there was a circle track talk, yeah. And you can get on there with a bogus name.
Oh yeah.
And I get on there and I know for a fact that there's one kid done this. They were at Cedar Ridge, and I think it was Jason Sharp and Matt Stewart. They were having their problems. Well, this one kid would get on there and say good things about Matt Stewart, then he'd get on there and say bad things about Matt Stewart or Jason Sharp. It's the same kid starting things
between those two guys,
and they did not know what the heck was going on. They're like, why are you saying this? And I'm like, what are you talking about? So yeah, that was a while back. That was 2006, 2007, the start of...
I remember when those two guys were racing.
Yeah. So that was the start of controversy on social media. Then now, like on Facebook, yeah, you can make up a fake profile and everything else, but, to me, if you're going to be man enough to sit on the computer, be man enough to put your name behind it.
Oh, yeah.
Let people know who you are.
Oh, yeah.
Talking to crap,
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And you get a lot of, keyboard tough guys. And, and again, that's just using it maliciously. And we here at the podcast are kind of on a crusade to try to reverse a lot of that and kind of keep people in a frame of mind and be like, you guys, you got to understand how this affects the sport, how this affects you, your family, your driver, other drivers, and people need to realize that with a push of a button, you can influence so many people's opinion by just one statement. And, a lot of people can take statements out of context. It's not always, in the right context when people somehow are they going to read it, they're going to interpret it. So
yeah, and it's kind of like a funny thing. It's like me and Dwayne Richardson. I joke a lot with Dwayne, and there was one time that me and Dwayne seen each other, and he goes, "Man, you're the most hated guy on here." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Man, I had a buddy come up to me and said, 'Why do you put up with that stuff?' Even though they don't know that me and him were just joking back and forth."
Yeah.
People see that, and people will take it, like I said, in a wrong context, and they're like, "Dude, this Mikey Gray is a butthole." Even though I'm at times I am, but sometimes I'm probably one of the coolest guys. Most annoying, coolest guys you can never meet. Be happy and live life.
Right.
So.
Well, rolling from social media, I want you to think about this, and this can be asphalt and dirt, and you've run both, and you've been out to both tracks and different things, but there's a segment we normally do on this show. It's called The State of Racing, and we always ask people, how do you feel the state of local racing in our area is today? Is it strong? Is it struggling? How do you feel about it?
I seen that you was going to ask that question, and basically I just put a hit and miss. I don't really have a good comment for that because in my eyes, you may be going out there winning, and people's going to hate you. You may be going out there losing, people's going to hate you. You got some guys that team up on other guys. You got your underdog. It's just, how can I say this? Racing's not a tight-knit family like it used to be. So, and like I said, social media has really put a dark cloud, here at our local track and local tracks around here. I mean, there's 2 tracks right now that's not been running, and there's a lot of jabber over social media about that. And to me, I think that that track promoters need to get together. Take your big hat off. Get in a circle, talk to each other, say, guys, what can we do to bring cars? I know there's 15 cars out here that's not racing because they don't like you, they don't like you, they don't like you, they don't run this rule. Get together. That way that a Friday and Saturday and Sunday night, you get together and, have 10 or 15, 20 cars in each class. Get together as promoters. Don't schedule a big race whenever somebody's going to have a bigger and better race. Work it out.
Yeah, don't try to undercut the other guy.
Exactly. And to me, I've seen that has happened, and also it's not just here in our town. It's actually like I've seen it with the Indy at the Speedrome and Sportsdrome. They cut throats. They want to bring this class there, or maybe I want to go travel to somewhere and race, but I can't because a cam rule, a tire rule, a body rule. I wish promoters right now would just, like I said, get off their high horse, talk to each other, shake hands, be buddies for one good night. Let the fans, let the racers, not overtake everything. Yes, we do need promoters. We do need track owners. But, get together and say, hey, this is what we can do. Give a person a reason to race instead of hate the track.
Oh, exactly. And that's a big thing, and we have heard that multiple times is that everybody needs to get on the same page. And again, we're not singling anybody out. We're just saying, it's a problem in other areas too, but it's one of the things in our area that I think you're right. We definitely need to figure out how to get everybody on the same page and then go from there. Went to Kentucky Motor Speedway. Actually, last night we're recording this on a Monday, and I went last night to Sunday night, and I had a great time. And I love going to KMS when I can, and it's a mile and a half away from my house, so it's a good deal. But I just hate it that the cars aren't coming to KMS to race, and I don't know what the disconnect is, and I don't know how we get that back. And we're me and Wes and I talked about this earlier today. Is how can we help it? How can we help them out? And we want to try to bounce some ideas and see what sticks and see what happens.
Yeah, see, I mean, I'm not going to bash Kentucky Motor Speedway because I love asphalt.
Absolutely.
But, there's a lot of times the rules changes. Motor rules, tire rules. Tire rules is what kicks a lot of people in the butt because, a low-budget team, they can't go out there and run with the big dogs on, 4 or 5 race-old tires. Some of these teams can buy brand new tires. They got the money to buy things, and a person who might want to go race, they might not be able to afford the new things. And why go up there if you don't have the chance to win a top 5? You might get $20 back that night, and you're like, wow, was this worth it? Time away from my family, gas in my truck, gas in my race car, going out and finding these sponsors and going up there and getting beat because you don't have the new equipment, you don't have the high-tech stuff, you don't have that real nice enclosed trailer, you don't have what that guy next to you has. And sometimes if you roll up to a racetrack and you see this real nice beautiful car, 10 guys in a pit crew rolling out boxes and tires and everything else, and you're coming up there in the truck that you had to take the battery out of your race car to put it in your truck to get to the track, then take your battery out of your truck, put it in your race car, you're not going to do that no more. And there used to be some guys that would swap, that would run on a Saturday night and, pull their motors out of the race car and put it in their truck where they can get back to work Monday morning.
Oh, yeah.
And, now, no. It's all, a lot of times, it's who has the bigger pockets, who's, who has the bigger pockets, pretty much. That's
So what we're needing, and a lot of times asphalt tires are different than dirt tires. They've got a lifespan, and dirt tires do too. But we can run a dirt tire, especially a dirt Hoosier, a lot longer than we could a Comanche. And you're right. Some of these guys can run on tires for 10 races. Whereas, you're right. A guy that's got 2 or 3 races on a set of tires, those things are just about wore out.
Yeah, I mean, it's like back when I was racing in 2010, 2011 in the figure eights, I think it was Jeff Barnett. I got a whole truck full of tires. And he said some of them might have holes in them, some of them might not, some of them was good, some of them was not. So we went down to Harris Body Shop. They had a cutter down there. We cut these tires, made them true and everything else like brand new. And that's what I raced on, just hand-me-down tires.
Yep.
I've always been kind of a hand-me-down kind of person. And, there's a guy named Todd Rust.
Mm-hmm.
Drove late models years ago.
Oh, yeah.
He told me there was this one guy. He would buy new tires every weekend for that late model. He said, man, he'd get mad, have them for sale the next week. Todd said he'd go over and buy them for $20. Go back to the house, mount them, come out there and spank that dude's butt. And that guy was like, man, what are you, I couldn't get these tires to run right. Things like that. And like I said, a lot of people have that money and they think it's all about the money, and it's not.
You're right.
But like I said, a lot of times tires is what costs you. Gas is what costs you. Oil, like I said, just different little variety of things. Now, if we went back to the basics, like how cars used to be, like we was talking about that 4 division up there at Sports Drome. They're 4 division, 4-point roll cage, door bars, steel plate, no modifications whatsoever. Got to keep the dashboard in there. Basically, just got a car, put a good, safe 4-point cage in it, and go racing. And they got 40 cars in that class. And I mean, so that tells you right there. Around here, we have outpriced ourselves in racing.
I think that's a very, very fair statement. I think you're exactly you're onto something there, and I think that has killed a lot of people that maybe can't. They're right here, but they can't quite go that far. And then now we're kind of in a box these days where it takes a lot of money to even back up.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get out of that groove, and we're going to have to try to figure out a way to make that equal for everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like they try to do this the scrapper class. Well, that got kind of out of hand. Then the bombers. Well, I'll tell you what. Whenever they had the true cruisers out there at Weedy Hollow and Whitesville, those were true cruisers. Just basically put you a good, row bar in there, go out there and have fun. No modifications. Get through, enter the race. I claim your car. You claim this guy's car. No hard feelings.
Yeah.
Now, if you try to claim somebody and there's a claim rule, or, there's some guys that are running lower budget classes with high dollar motors, to a person who wants to get in racing, they go out there and see a guy just completely dominate. They're like, what do I need to build a car to get out there for? I can't win. I can't compete with them. Look, they're coming in with the enclosed trailer. They got this, they got that. And that kind of belittles a person who may want to actually get into it and doesn't have the fundings, but, they want to get in there. Like I said, bombers, years ago, they used to be knock your windows out and pretty much put a good safe road cage in there and go out and have fun. But now, it's stepped up. Every class I see around here has modified, like mini stocks. Used to, mini stocks, they were, slow, and they were out there having fun. But now look at them.
Yeah,
They're
crazy
fast.
now. Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're turning faster times than some V8 motors are, and they're turning the heck out of these cars.
Yep.
And it's all, a lot of, like I said, we're outpricing ourselves. Tekken's not getting necessarily done 100% what way it should be.
Yeah.
To me, to make a class where you got to enforce everything, enforce the rules, and like I said, that's I think that's how you'll get cars back to the track, is being an enforcer. You will bring, I would say, more cars back to the track, because you'll see that people's actually, like, well, hey, I might have a chance to win tonight. I should have brought my car out. Because I see a lot of people sitting in the grandstands that have cars that want to be out there, but they know that they might not beat this guy or that guy. Right. And who wants to go out there and run, in the back of the pack? All guys want to compete. We're competitive. But when you see a guy going out there and just dominating, and is that going to give me hope? Say, hey, I can get out there. Well, especially if you see this guy has unlimited pocketbooks,
right?
Brand new tires, brand new car, brand new trailer, brand new tools, everything. How can an average Joe get out there and do it the legally right way to do it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, Mikey, buddy, it's been a great time talking to you today, man, and you've had a lot of great things to say and good stories, and we've loved hearing about your career, and I'm hoping that everybody out there knows more about you now, that, they've known you maybe for over the years, but maybe they've got a different perspective and they know your story. But one thing we're huge on here is sponsors and your team and things like that, and people that help you out. So, buddy, just let loose on it, and then tell us who all helps you out and who you have to thank for that.
Okay, I got one good standing sponsor who's been with me for many of years. That's Oasis Tanning Salon. Mm-hmm. They've been with me for many of years. They've always been there every time I ask, hey, a couple dollars helps, But Asylum Tattoos, Danny Sexton, Toucan Restaurant, one of my favorite Mexican restaurants here in Owensboro. Main Street Family Medicine. It's they got 3 locations in Calhoun, Whitesville, and Parrish Avenue. Diane Burkhead, been one of my good supporters since 2010. Very, very good people. Value Liquors, Nikki, out there on Highway 54, locally owned. Great people to go out there and see. Batteries Express, Dustin. Andrea Nance, she's my number one fan. She's been my number one fan for many of years. And she's been there in the good times that I've had in racing. She's been there the bad times I've had racing. Always give me a hug after the races. No matter how bad of a night I had, she always, brightened up my spirits. Hires Body Shop, like I said earlier, they're a good sponsor. They've always stepped out and helped me. And I just want to thank all the fans that has been with me and has been with not necessarily just me, but all the tracks, all the other drivers, showing support, showing the love, reaching out, in times of need, for things that might has happened, in our racing family. And I just want to thank everybody who's been here listening. Thank y'all for letting me be on the show. And I just want to thank, like I said, everybody. I just don't have one person to thank. I want to thank everybody because, from the time I was a kid till the time I am now, and one good thing I always say is always be nice to that one person, because that one person can always be there to help you. And always, like I said, be kind to everybody. You never know who's watching you. And, you'll pick up a lot of, no matter if you're running the last place, you'll pick up fans by being a nice person. Smile, support your local racing, and support your charities around here, support what's going on in car shows, talk shows. Without y'all, there wouldn't be me, and that's that's basically the bottom line of it.
Well, Mikey, we appreciate you coming on the show again. We know it was short notice, and you're one of the people that we did thought about, but we just had it just didn't line up the way, but it worked out great today, and we were glad you came on and shared your story with us, buddy. And we look forward to seeing that 42 wagon out there tearing up the dirt, and maybe if you want to go asphalt too, that'd be pretty cool. But we appreciate you coming on, buddy, and we welcome you back anytime.
All right, I appreciate it, and thank you all very much.
All right, we'll be back here in just a second to close this episode out.
Are you looking for a hometown barbershop specializing in the best haircuts in Western Kentucky? Master Barber Chad Thompson has everything you need to keep you looking sharp for not only your special occasions, but for every day as well. Offering a line of hair care products to take care of your hair between cuts. Walk-ins are welcome, and you're always going to find friends and neighbors at Chad's. You can find him at 10655 Kentucky 764 in Whitesville, Kentucky, or give him a call at 270-903-8183.
And we're back to close this episode out. Man, what a great show with Mikey Gray. Man, he had a lot of good stuff to say and a lot of great opinions on some things, and a lot of good advice too.
I actually really enjoyed what he was saying about making sure that your vehicle's safe. I know that should go without saying, but I think it's really the first time on our show that we've had someone get that deep into discussing racing safety,
right,
and how important it is.
Well, we had Billy Igler on for his episode, and again, he's big into the Safer Racer program and gets a lot of things donated to racers who don't have safety equipment. And, it's a great job what he's doing. But Mikey, echoed that sentiment and saying that, hey, you guys, we just got it don't take a minute just to look at your safety stuff. You know what I mean? Make sure, spend your money. If you're going to spend your money, you don't have to always spend it on racing wheels or whatever. You need racing wheels, but what I'm saying is you don't have to have brand new racing wheels when you've got wheels at work. Spend that money on a helmet. Spend that money on some new belts. And they're relatively inexpensive, and it's worth the money in the long run.
You are correct. And hearing the stories about asphalt, we don't talk about asphalt nearly enough here.
No, we need to do that more.
So those stories were cool, and I've never seen a figure eight race, and I know generally how the concept works. So I can't wait to actually get out and see one of those. So hopefully before too long that'll happen. So.
Well, just by happenstance that I ended up at Kentucky Motor Speedway the last night they raced, and I was planning on going anyway, but was driving back from vacation, and I'll tell you this, how much I love racing. I made it to Whitesville. I made it through halfway through Whitesville, did not even make it to my house, just enough to get money to get into the races, and we turned around and went back to Kentucky Motor Speedway just right as they started, and so I didn't even go home from my vacation before I went to the races. So that's how strongly I feel about it, and I believe in what Brad Payne and Tommy Fisher are doing out there at Kentucky Motor Speedway in Whitesville, and I really think that based on the racing, I had a great time, and the cars are pretty. They really are, and they've got some top-notch stuff out there. It's just they don't have a lot of them. And it left me a little bit scratching my head, and it wasn't because of anything the track did, and it wasn't because of anything that the promoter did or anything like that. It wasn't that. It's just there's a miss. And by the way, Malcolm West did a great job announcing last night. He did a wonderful job. So did Scott Slayton doing the on-track interviews. Scott's a character, and it was pretty funny to see him out there doing on-track interviews and doing the kids' rides. And Tommy, brings out the ride cars, the truck and the car, and gives the kids some spins around the racetrack, and that's wonderful what they do. But again, it's no problem with the track, and I don't believe that at all. But I just got to, it left me scratching my head a little bit of how do we get these cars back to Kentucky Motor Speedway?
Well, I think we should sit down with Brad and Tommy and put our heads together and see what we can kind of maybe shake loose and see if there's anything that we can help with.
Absolutely.
For promotion's sake, and maybe there is something that we can do or an idea that we have that they might not have picked up and go, oh yeah, we can do that.
Or build bridges. You know what I mean? Between
for sure.
Who they need to get in contact with, or somebody needs to get in contact with them. Maybe people don't know.
For sure.
Maybe people were like, well, I didn't even know that.
Absolutely.
I can bring my car down there and race. So, that's the thing. It all starts with maybe a handshake or just a conversation.
For sure.
And we're good at having conversations because, Lord knows, we've almost had a 2-hour one.
And we know that Nathan likes to talk.
And we do. And but I like to talk to people, man.
It's true.
And you're on board with that as well.
I am.
Man. And you're learning, and you're. But again, that's why we talked about that earlier today. And we're like, what can we do to help KMS?
Sure.
And I don't know. But we're going to find out.
Well, and I think that, when we have people like Mikey Gray who have got a storied history with the track, maybe we can lean on him some and get some ideas from him. So, it was great that, he came on and told his stories. And, I can't wait to hear him on the podcast because I do like listening to the podcast. And it'll be like hearing these stories for me is just going to be a great time again. So
it always is, man. So, again, if you guys got any ideas of what we can maybe work on for some of that stuff, and, I don't know, we're leaning a little asphalt heavy right now, but it's,
Well, fair shake. We got to give everybody a fair shake.
Well, and we have plans to get Brad Payne and Tommy Fisher on here to give some insight on what's going on out there in Whitesville. And again, what was funny is I saw a ton of dirt people. Dirt drivers, dirt people. I don't know if they were actually dirt people, but of dirt drivers and families that go to the dirt tracks on the regular. We're in the stands at Whitesville last night at Kentucky Motor Speedway, and it was great to see that, and it was cool, that they're going out there supporting it too, because they don't just have to be a one-track runner, and asphalt might not be your thing, but it could surprise you. You know what I mean? And dirt might not be your thing if you're an asphalt person, but it might surprise you.
Well, and I had a conversation earlier in the week with Mike Harris. He's a demolition derby driver. He's a pretty cool guy. We talked to him when Sarah and I went out to the Spencer County Fair, and he was really impressed with the fact that we don't just stick with dirt track racing, that we talk to the monster truck guys and we've talked to demo guys and we do asphalt stuff. So he's just happy that we are in this to celebrate the fact that it's got wheels and a motor, and that's my whole stance is we want all those guys on here. So
yeah, and that's the thing is going forward. We are committed. This will be episode, 21?
21.
So we're on the, I think we're well established now. I mean, I think so. I think the silver anniversary of the 25th episode would be great. Might have to have a party or something. But no, I think we're well established now, and I think that we're making inroads into all types of different motorsports, and it's important. It's
Agreed.
important to us just like it's important to you guys. And, you might not think, you might sit there and think, you'd be like, I'm not a monster truck guy. I'm not a monster truck fan. But if you'll just take, 20 minutes of listening to the monster truck episode, I will almost all but guarantee you will listen to the whole thing, and you will have learned something in the process, and you'll be like, you know what? Maybe it is pretty cool.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. And we talked about that when we recorded the episode. So just want to keep bringing in fans, not just to the podcast, but to the racing community as well. We want to continue to see big things happen, and I think we're in a position to where we can help some of that stuff along. So,
and we've got big plans to do that.
We do.
Again, we can't reveal them.
Not yet.
Teaser.
I was talking to Blake Shock at the track Friday night, and I was like, man, I know we say it almost every week that we got big things coming, and I promise you, they're big.
They are big.
And
very
you
big.
just have to be patient with this because we've now got an official date in which we can say what these big things are. We're not going to tell you the date, but we do have a date, and it's coming soon. And it's going to be big, and you're going to be blown away, and you're going to love it. So.
And we hope that you all support and participate.
Oh, I know they will. Every single person who's listening will. I have faith.
Now I'm just going to go ahead and tell them it's the world's biggest slip and slide. And we're going to have... No, it's not. It's really not.
It's going to go all the way down.
We're going to run our race cars on the slip and slide.
Highway 54.
I don't know how far we could go down 54 slip and slide, but... Well, but like I said, big things are coming. Believe things are happening. They really are. We're working behind the scenes. And like I said, I know we keep you guys out of the loop, but we are going to keep you in the loop whenever we're able to do so.
True story.
And you're going to probably get sick of hearing it, but you won't forget it when you do. So that's going to be good stuff. So we covered everything for today.
We have.
So sponsors-wise here, Mach 5 Race Cars, Parts and Carts, Fairview IT Management, Martin Stowing Recovery, Chad's Barbershop, Glenstone Construction, Slingshot Media Group, Lori Kimball Home Realty, Willie's Carburetor and Dyno Shop, High Octane Racewear and Graphics. You can find us on the web at www.conwayracingteam.com, What? The BentFenderPodcast.com?
Yeah, Bent Fender Podcast.
I don't even know the name of my own podcast.
The Bent Fender Podcast.
Yes, the, capital the.
Don't have to be capital.
I don't know what it is. But the BentFenderPodcast.com, you can find and get hooked up with everything. You can find us on Facebook, Conway Racing Team, and also the Bent Fender Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Conway Race Team, Instagram Conway Racing. Goes out and support our buddy Blake Smith, Regional Motorsports Power Hour, every Monday night through the racing season, through September. So we got about a month left. So get out there. As of this recording, we've got about a month left. So get out there, 7 to 8:30 every Monday night. Maloney's get 25% off a specialty pizza during the show. Also, you can find him on 102.7 ESPN, The Game, 94.7 WBIO, and across all the Cromwell stations, however you will do that, even AM stations. Man, it's been awesome, man.
I think so.
Another good show.
I agree.
And, buddy, I want to tell you real quick, before you agree with me on anything else, agree with this.
What?
I love you, brother.
Oh.
I do, man, and I appreciate everything you do, and I appreciate that you took the time and stepped out of your comfort zone to go put out content for this podcast.
Well,
I know that you get, and you may think that, well, I'm not the face of it or I'm not the voice of it, but again, man, this is just as much your podcast as is my podcast, as everybody's podcast, and you're doing a great job.
Well, I appreciate that, and as much as that means to me and it touches me deep in my soul, I'm glad you're back.
Well, I am here. And,
I'm glad that there's another set of shoulders to carry this burden.
That's right. Well, guys, we're going to go ahead and close this episode out. We appreciate everybody listening. Get with us on social media. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like, who you want to hear. And, we appreciate it. We appreciate all feedback, and we love talking to you. So
absolutely.
Until next time, you guys have a safe and enjoyable night, and get out and support your local racetrack.
Absolutely. That's Nathan Porkchop Conway. And what was my nickname?
The Lone Wolf.
Holding it down during vacation or something?
It must have been what it was.
I'm West Lou Allen.
Flying solo.
That's what it was. We'll see y'all next week.
You've been listening to the best up-and-coming motorsports podcast on the internet. Tune in next week to see who we're trading paint with on the Bent Fender Podcast.